So today we're going to talk about formations. We're going to talk about how formations work and how they interact with each other. I've been playing this game for quite a while, and I've heard all kinds of crazy theories on how phalanxes and wedges work. I've heard phalanxes hit harder than wedges, which isn't true. I've heard that phalanxes and wedges are like rock, paper, scissors, where cav phalanx beats infantry phalanx, and infantry phalanx beats ranged phalanx, and so on and so forth, and that's also not true. I've heard that there's hidden attack bonuses, so say you run a cav phalanx and then you attack an infantry phalanx, that you get some kind of hidden 20% attack bonus. That's also not true. The only thing different between a wedge and a phalanx, or for that matter, a phalanx and another phalanx, is the layout of the troops on the battlefield. That's it. There's no other difference whatsoever. But as you'll see later in this video, the starting position of the troops on the battlefield plays an absolutely huge role in how the battle unfolds. So, the other thing I want to say too before I get started is that everything I'm going to say today applies to both phalanxes and wedges, right? Like, they're very similar in the way they function. So if I say that the troops are divided up into this squad this way, that applies to phalanxes and wedges. So let's start. So before you can understand how phalanxes and wedges work, you have to understand what they're made of. They're made of squads, right? So in an infantry phalanx, for example, you have a possible 16 total squads. You have 4 infantry, 4 cav, 4 ranged, and 4 siege. Now that's only if you send all those troop types. Within that 16 squad limit, there is a 4 squad limit per troop type. So you can only have 4 infantry squads maximum, you can only have 4 ranged squads maximum, only 4 cav squads, and only 4 siege squads. So if I sent a full mixed march with siege, I'd have 16 squads. If I sent like an infantry cavalry march with no ranged and no siege, I'd only have 8 squads. If I sent a single troop march of only infantry, then I would only have 4 squads. So now let's take an example. Let's say I'm going to rally this guy, we'll call this guy Bob. I'm going to rally him with 1.2 million troops. And within that 1.2 million troops, I'm going to send 400K of each. So I'm going to have 400K infantry, 400K cav, 400K ranged. And I'm going to send 100K of each T1. So I'm going to have 100K T1, T2, T3, and T4 infantry for a total of 400K. And I'm going to do that in cav and range too. Now the troops are divided equally among the squads. So in every infantry squad, I'll have 100K troops, right? I have 400K total. They're going to be divided equally, so I'll have 100K in each. Now within that, the tiers are also divided equally. So if I have 100K in each squad, and I have 100K T1, T2, T3, and T4, then there would be 25K in each squad of each tier. So each squad will be comprised of 25K T4, 25K T3, 25K T2, and 25K T1. And your cav and your ranged will follow suit. Now, when a squad gets targeted, so say the enemy's attacking this infantry squad right here, the T1 will always die first in whatever squad is targeted, and all this applies to wedges too. So let's say Bob is attacking me, because I'm attacking Bob, and he targets this infantry squad. When this squad's being attacked, I'm going to lose my T1 first, then my T2, then my T3, and then my T4. So that is what phalanxes and wedges are made of. They're made of squads, and that's how the troops are divided up into the squads. So now let's get to why that's important. Let's talk about targeting. So I'm running an infantry phalanx, and Bob is running an infantry phalanx. So people would say that my troops are attacking Bob's infantry because he's in an infantry phalanx. And all that is a true statement, That is a very, very poor way to look at it because that's not actually what's happening. My troops aren't attacking Bob's infantry. My squads are attacking Bob's squads. Each one of my squads picks a target on Bob's troops and attacks it, right? And now I said they're attacking Bob's infantry because he's in an infantry phalanx. Yes, but no. They're attacking Bob's infantry because his infantry are the closest troop to these squads. So as far as targeting is concerned, there's 3 times during a battle where the troops target him. One is at the very start of the battle. So when the battle starts, all of the troops pick a target, and the squads target individually. So the best way to look at this is that each squad picks the closest squad to them to target. So this infantry squad right here is going to attack Bob's infantry squad here, because that's the closest squad to that one. Same with this one. This cav squad is going to target Bob's front infantry squad. So on with this one, and so on with this one. And the same thing happens on down the line. So you're going to have these squads attacking that, these squads attacking that, and these squads attacking that. So that's the first targeting. Now nothing can happen here until Bob's infantry squads are dead. Once a troop locks on a target, it won't come off that target until that squad is dead. So now look at what's happening here. You have a disproportionate amount of damage, right, being done to this infantry squad. Because what's attacking this infantry squad? 2 cav squads, a ranged squad, and an infantry squad. So all your cav are attacking his outer infantry squad, right? So these are going to die first. And these will still be alive, right? So then you get reports. You say, Benz, I ran an infantry phalanx and my cav died, and but not all my infantry died. This is why. So after this squad dies, then all these, this one and this one die. These 2 are still alive. So this squad and that squad are still attacking that, and that squad are still attacking that. So then a retarget happens on just this squad. So these 4 all lock on a new target, and it's going to be this one, because that's going to be the next closest squad. Now I know that from seeing multiple battle reports. The dynamic of the battle can change to where it may or may not always be this squad. They always attack the next closest one. In this circumstance, this will be the next closest one. So now you're going to have a bunch of cav die while your infantry are still alive. So that's the first time troops target. So let's go back and look at the second time troops target. So you gotta put Bob back in an infantry phalanx here. So the second time there's a target is if there's a wall. So let's use a cav formation for this. No, let's use a ranged phalanx for this. Okay, so this can best be expressed in a ranged phalanx. So let's say I'm attacking Bob and there's a wall, right? So Bob's ranged will be up on the wall. My ranged will be firing on the wall. As soon as the wall goes down, there's a retarget. So all my troops were targeting the wall. At the instant the wall goes down, there's a pause in the battle. Bob's ranged will automatically port back here because he's in an infantry phalanx, so it'll port him back to an infantry phalanx. And now what happens to my troops? So if I can kill the wall, before the cav passed the ranged, then my ranged are still going to get attacked, right? Because there's a retarget. Because they're going to attack whatever squad is closest to them. Now, if you can't kill the wall that fast, and let's say the cav march up here, and now the cav are beating on the wall. And the ranged are firing from the back, and now the wall drops. Now there's a retarget. As soon as the wall drops, there's a retarget. Now the cav are in front of the ranged. So now all of Bob's squads are going to target your cav, right? And these two will target that one. Because that's the second point at which there's a retarget. Because those are the closest squads in proximity to Bob's squads. So, and then the third time is when a squad dies, which I explained earlier. And that's harder to predict because there's so many factors in play at that point. Like it depends on stats and if one of your squads died first or if one of his squads died first. Because let's say, let's draw this out again. We'll go infantry phalanx with some cav squads just for... All right, so in the example I gave, this squad died. What if that squad doesn't die, right? What if your squad dies instead? What if Bob kills your infantry squad? Now, all these troops will be up here fighting in the middle, by the way. So now, when this squad does finally die, if Bob kills that one first, are these still going to target this? The troops will all shift and move and flow in battle, so maybe they'll target this. You know, I don't really know at that point. I can tell you initial targeting and then flow of battle, but there's too many variables to determine if it'll be this one or that one just by explaining it in this manner. But it'll always be the closest squad to the squad. So let's do some examples now that we got the basics down. So let's look at this. Okay, so I said earlier that phalanxes don't work like rock, paper, scissors, right? And that's true. So cav phalanx doesn't beat infantry phalanx. Infantry phalanx beats cav phalanx. Now let's take a step back here for a minute. This is not how you pick your phalanxes. You don't pick your phalanx based on your opponent's phalanx. You pick your phalanx or your wedge based on your opponent's troop composition. So the information I'm about to give you, although I feel it is important from a theoretical standpoint, so you can understand how formations work and how to put your troops in the best position on the battlefield to survive, there's not a lot of situations in the game where you would actually want to do this. So I said infantry phalanx beats cav phalanx, so let's talk about why. So you got your cav up front in this one and your infantry up front in this one. Now, what troop do you need to counter cavalry, right? Cav. What counters cav? Ranged. My ranged are in the back. My ranged are not getting attacked. Now, what troop counters infantry? Cavalry, right? So, he's fronting cav. The troop that's going to do the most damage to the cav is the ranged. I'm fronting infantry. The troop that's going to do the most damage to the infantry is the cav, and he put his cav up front to die. So as this battle progresses, these troops are going to die off, right? So he's losing the ability to damage my front line as the battle progresses. I am not. Infantry don't do very much damage to cav at all. So as my infantry die, I lose very little attack power. As his cav dies, he loses a bunch of attack power on my infantry. Now, this only works with all even factors. So even troop comp, this has to be in a 33 comp on both sides for this to work. You have to have even stats, you know, I mean, obviously the cav phalanx is going to win if this guy's gold champ and this guy's 10 million might or whatever, you know. So all factors equal, infantry beats cav. Now let's change some factors. So let's say instead of a 33 comp, now he has a 25, 50 comp, and that's half cav, quarter infantry, quarter ranged. Well, now Bob is going to crush me, right? Because he has twice as many cavs, so he's going to obliterate my front line. But that's not because of the cav phalanx. That's because of the troop composition, right? Now let's go back to an even comp. We'll say Bob is an even comp. And now I got in hero. Let's add some heroes in. I got 4 infantry heroes, and he's got 4 cav heroes. Now Bob is still going to crush me, because if you add 4 cav heroes in here, he's going to essentially double the amount of damage his cavalry do. So now his cav are stronger, and they're going to tear through my front line. So this is only to show that infantry phalanx has an inherent advantage against a cav phalanx, but that doesn't mean it's going to beat it in all circumstances, and you definitely shouldn't be picking your phalanx based on your opponent's phalanx. Also, you never know your opponent's phalanx, right? So like, how can you do that? So let's look at another example. Let's do a wedge. I'm sure you're all dying to see a wedge. So in this example, we got cav wedge. Cav there. Your infantry on the side. And your ranged in the back. So now what happens? There's no wall, it's an open field battle. So the battle's going to start. My troops are going to target his squad. So each one of these squads is going to pick an individual target over here, whatever's closest to it. Now, what is the closest squad in this scenario? And this is the big difference between a wedge and a phalanx. The closest squad at the start of the battle is only these two. See these two? Just those two. So half of my troops, the top half that's closest to this squad is going to target this cav squad. And these troops are going to target that cav squad. Now remember, troops can't retarget until these squads are dead. When they target something, they target it till they kill it. So nothing can happen at this point until these 2 squads die. So let's say these squads die, and the battle ends. That was the end of the 40 seconds. Now what have I lost here? Let's say Bob has 1.2 million troops in the same composition that I used in the example earlier. So now Bob is going to have 50k dead T1 cav, 50k dead T2 cav, 50k dead T3 cav, and 50k dead T4 cav. Remember, because troops are split evenly among the 4 squads, right? And he's going to have T1 cav alive back here. He's going to have dead T4 and living T1 because the battle ended and these squads never got targeted. So let's say the battle doesn't end there. And these squads die. Now there's going to be a retarget, right? So all these troops are up here. The infantry, they kind of curve in on them. And the infantry are here, and the cav are around the side too. Well, infantry and the cav are up here somewhere, right? So now there's going to be retarget. Some of these squads are going to be closer to this one, and some of them are going to be closer to this one. So basically what a wedge does is it causes a retarget once 50% of your front line dies. That's not very useful, in my opinion, in most circumstances. No, that should have been range troops, so I guess it doesn't matter now.